Hi, I'm Nancy Spielberg, and I am so honored to be here talking to Noa Aharoni, the director of Sabotage. And Noa,
Hello.
before we start, I want to read a little bit of your bio so people understand who you are beyond this incredible film. Excuse me for reading it, but you did a lot of things. You're in Israel. You are an award-winning Israeli documentary filmmaker, recognized for her compelling exploration of complex social issues. Your 2017 film Shadows, which delves into the generational trauma of Holocaust survivors and their children, was selected for the prestigious IDFA, IDFA, and Dakaviv film festivals. That's incredible. And won Best Documentary Film Award from the Israeli Documentary Forum. Was also nominated for the Israeli Academy Award for Best Documentary. And your debut feature film By Summer's End in 2011 garnered Distribution Award and an Israeli Academy Award nomination, and it was screened all over. And you are a graduate of Sapir College with a degree in TV and cinema. And you are also now, you just finished a project I'm going to ask you about called Eyes Wide Open, about the female observers on October 7th, that were, most of them were massacred. And you're also working on another second part to that, but we'll talk about that after Sabotage. Um,
Yes.
First of all, I don't know if you know, but I worked on a documentary called Who Wrote Our History. And the film was done in recreations, but every word spoken was from the writings of these people, the secret group in the Warsaw Ghetto that wrote everything in real time.
Wow.
And the challenge was our main character, Rachel Auerbach, had a diary in Yiddish, and we had to translate the whole thing, which took a long time. What about this? You've got Anna's diary.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what language did you have to translate it? Was it already translated? Tell us how
Okay.
you found that.
Yeah. So first of all, she wrote it. She also wrote it at that time in Auschwitz camp.
Right,
But when they started to come to them and to know that there is a secret underground, she burned everything up. So when she got freed afterwards, she was in Belgium. Then she rewrote. It was like several months after that. So
right,
she wrote the diary again, and it was very fresh, and it was up until her sister was hanged.
right, right,
So and it was in Polish because this is the language she brought and knew. But a few years later, like hopping on like 40 or more years later, she had two daughters, and one of her husband's daughters suggested that she will write a book, and then they translated the whole diary from Polish to English.
right.
So
And
I
why?
didn't have to do the whole
Right. Well, it saved you a few years and a lot of dollars that way. And
exactly.
why this story? What drew you to this story?
So what the amazing thing is, I'm from Israel. From when I'm this high, like 3, 4, 5 years old, we know all about the Holocaust. We know about there's one day Holocaust Day every year. You see movies, you hear stories, you hear everything. You see and hear everything. So how can that be? That all these years, and I'm not a kid anymore, I didn't hear about the female underground. Like it blew my mind that there is still something that I haven't heard about,
Right,
and it's not a small thing. Okay, it was a huge thing. It was a very big thing. They blew up the crematorium. It's like major,
right,
and I heard and I saw Saul's Son, the great film that won an Oscar even, and it was about the Sonderkommando, because this is the end of the underground,
right, right,
the end of the chain, because the women, they brought the powder to the Sonderkommando. But even in those films that I saw, there is like a lack of the female story.
right.
So I didn't know that story, and not only me, of course, I'm talking about everyone didn't hear about them. So it was shocking to me to find out about that. And then when I started the research, I was looking for the only name that was recognized was Rosa Robota, because
Right.
she was the one that linked between the female underground and the Sonderkommando. So when I clicked, that my researcher clicked in her name, there were a lot of names coming up, and the whole story was uncovered and revealed. And I'm telling you, it was a shock to me.
So you almost stumbled upon this story,
Yeah,
you know, which just
actually, the producer stumbled upon the story because he wanted to do another film. He wanted to do about the Eichmann trial
right.
and all the testimonies there. And then he heard about a man telling the story about Rosa Rowota and the underground female. So that's what happened, and that's how he revealed the story. And then he said to himself, and I'm very glad he did, I think this should make a female director and not me, because he's
Right.
also a producer and a director.
Right. Good.
And
That's
that's
good.
a
Yes.
very good thing. I'm telling you, I read his proposal. It's not close to what I did, because what I did, and this is very important, I let the female tell their stories. I let the
Yeah.
heroines tell their stories. I didn't want historians, or I wanted them to tell their story, because it's mind-blowing. And Anna is such a strong character.
She's so strong that at times you almost wonder if you would like her if you met her in person, because there's a couple times that she had attitude, but it was that attitude that was, well, we're probably going to die anyway, so we're going to do this. And I really,
Exactly.
each of the women that spoke, and mostly when you see some of these women and their hair is done and their lipstick is perfect and they're ladies,
Right.
they're nice
Yeah.
ladies with their nice clothing and their pearls on, and then they tell you these stories, and it just goes to show you, you know, what women have done in history that is really hidden. It has not been
Exactly.
exposed. There are more films now, I think, about women resistance just recently, in maybe the last few years. You know, with Who Write Our History, Rachel Auerbach was the main character. It was a woman. With you know, there were, I think is it The Four Winters? There's another few films about resistance where they are focusing more on women. But this is new, and
This
the
is
stories
new.
aren't new. But and I'm thrilled to see it. I really am thrilled to see that there's this desire to
Yeah.
tell the stories, and there are still so many stories to be told.
So I didn't tell you, but there, besides the things that I'm doing on the 7th of October, I'm doing another film, which is female film, history film, about a lady that has gotten forgotten from history because men wrote history. And she's called Ada Sireni, and she was the first commanding of the Mossad of the Aliyah from Italy. And
Wow.
I'm doing like I want to do a series called The Forgotten Ones. And she's the first pilot that I'm doing for the public Israel television.
That's great. Okay, I need to see that one too.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Right.
And it has also it's the same painter, the same animation
Right.
artist that's going to be also animated, like Sabotage.
And I think that these days, because as we are telling Holocaust stories, we do not have the survivors. We have hopefully testimony
Yeah,
or written word, but you need those tools. You need the creative
right.
tools. And although animation, early on, when someone would say, I'm making an animated Holocaust film, people would say, God forbid, chas v'shalom, God forbid you're going to make a
That's true. That's
cartoon out of
true.
the Holocaust. It's not that. It really moves the story forward beautifully,
Yeah,
and you handle that so well. That is challenging, isn't it, to direct
yeah.
animation?
I wasn't sure at the beginning that I'm going to do the animation. I tried all sorts of things. I at first I thought it's going to be actors in a limbo, a black limbo or something like that. And it was like I was afraid it's going to be a little bit dramatic maybe or theatrical.
Right.
And so I like to view what's going to work the best. And then we got to this specific animation, and it's really abstract. It's not really accurate. It was
Right.
very important for me because I didn't want to reenact the actual thing. You cannot do that.
Right.
So I wanted just to take a little back from
And I think you had better, I would think a director has better control of how that is portrayed to an audience than you do when you are creating, when you're doing recreations, it's scary. It's
yeah,
also high budget, and none of us have a lot of money to spend on these
exactly.
films.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then if you don't like the way someone does it, I mean, you had much more creative control when you worked on the animation.
Yeah,
I had another
of
question
course.
because I mentioned in the bio that you did another film about
Right.
the trauma of children
Mhm.
of Holocaust survivors. So is any of your family survivors, or most of this comes from living in Israel and constantly being reminded
Yeah,
of the
well,
Holocaust?
first of all, I think like Israeli people, and my husband is his parents, grandparents are from Egypt, but he's also a survivor. To me,
Yes.
everyone that's in Israel is a survivor. So that's first of all. But my grandparents, they came from Poland and Russia. They came before the war. But you know, it's like the chalutz, the Aliyat Noa,
Yeah.
when young people come to Israel before the war, but there are few of them, and the whole families perished in the Holocaust. So
Right.
I, of course, didn't have a big family. I just have those grandparents, and that's it. We didn't have a large family. But I think that the full issue is being in Israel, you are a survivor. And now it's even more so
Yes.
because now I'm a mother. And just 2 weeks ago, I sent my daughter to the army. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's crazy. And I can't believe it. You know, it's like the history is all over again. And I'm saying, what's going on? And what's going to be next? When is it going to end, this surviving mode? We are always in a surviving mode.
Always in a surviving mode. And, you know, the Holocaust did not happen that long ago. So you
That's
would think that the world would have learned the worst atrocity in humankind, and you know, and that we would never ever go there again. And it feels now that we're inching closer to that because we've seen, you know, the barbarism and what's out there, and that it's all very possible. And also it seems that lately the Holocaust has become, people are managing it in as a political statement for Israel, and it's becoming sacrilegious. It's not, you know, it was that you don't, there are no jokes made about the Holocaust. You don't randomly draw swastikas, and that's okay with anybody. But now it's obviously, and in the United States also, it's everywhere with all the demonstrations and with all the rise in anti-Semitism. So here we are again with needing our heroes. And if
right.
the heroes in your movie were everyday people that
True,
rose to the occasion, and
true.
maybe that's one of the messages that, you know, besides sharing a story of the women that were the heroes, the unknown heroes, but of teaching us how to be heroes as well.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of similar, like what's happening now with the families of the uh, kidnaps, and also the persons that are kidnapped. Like
Right.
people say around, how can they survive? How can they bear it? And for me personal, when I'm documenting the families, I say they can't bear it, but they don't have a choice. This is what's going on. And also in Auschwitz, they were like me and you. They
Right.
came from great houses, warm houses, big families, or small families, or whatever. And They were just put in this horrific situation and they had to survive. You find strength within you. And I'm sure that the hostages are finding within them strength to
Yes.
get through it. I'm sorry. And also the families that are so hurting and suffering and waiting for it to end. And it's not ending. It's not ending, but they are, they are just finding their strengths. They have no other way.
Right. It's interesting because I'm working on a film about one of the hostages, and the day after Iran shot all the rockets in, the next morning, I got all these emails of, well, here's where we are on the film. I said, how is it that you get up in the morning after surviving a really traumatic experience that we weren't sure if Iran was really going to blast the hell out of Israel, and you're back at your desks? Where can they go? This is what we have to do. So
Right.
you
It's
have to
very
find a way to.
Israeli. We are a very strong nation. We are a very strong nation. But it's not okay. I don't want to get into political, but I just will say this. It's not only enemies with outside, it's enemies with inside. So
Right.
this is
Right.
the worst.
Well, I think with the Jewish people in general, there's a lot of infighting and a lot
Yeah.
of division. And even back in Nazi Germany, when the Jews in Germany said, oh, not me, I'm a
Yeah.
German first.
Right.
I am a German, I'm loyal to my country. But they realized their country was not loyal to them because in the eyes of the Nazis, they were a Jew first, not a German. So I guess we need to find strength as a people to
Yeah.
figure out ways to survive. And as you have even in the other film, the trauma in the second generations, the trauma is passing through the bloodlines a little bit. And
Yeah.
and
It's
now more
passing.
than ever.
Yeah,
I also
it's
wanted to
passing
ask
through
you.
the generations, and also people that are not from the from East Europe even,
Right, right.
all
I
over.
wanted to ask you, where did you find the interviews of the women that you had in Sabotage?
So first of all, in Yad Vashem
Right.
Museum, and your brother Spielberg,
That's what I wanted to hear you mention.
Steven Spielberg,
Not plugging
which
Shoah Foundation, but
like it's really important that he done that, because now we have all the testimonies. And also
right,
in Washington Shoah Museum.
right. Did you have a choice of more than just these women and you
Of course,
cherry
yeah.
picked the best
Yeah, I
ones
cherry
that told
picked
the
the best
story?
of them, the ones that knew how to talk,
Right,
to tell a story. And
right,
a lot of them were like broken English because they come from Poland, although they are a lot of years in what country they landed in. It was very hard to understand their English, and so I just picked the ones that knew how to tell the stories. But there were of course a lot of testimonies, a
right.
lot.
And how was the film received out in the world? Were you in a lot of festivals outside of Israel? What about Eastern Europe? What about Poland? Did you have screenings there, festivals there?
I'm sorry to say that I didn't. We tried to go to Berlin and we didn't get in. But we're going to do a round of Jewish films now, because these days it's very hard to get Holocaust into the door of festivals.
Yep.
They
It
they
sure is.
don't want to hear about it,
No.
and like for them it's like all news. For us, it's anti-Semitism, maybe, I don't know. Something there is like off.
I think it's going to be even tougher now, as
Yeah,
it would be for any October 7 movies, because already
yeah,
festivals are slamming the door. I know there are films, Israeli films at in Venice now, and there was a big demonstration against the
yeah,
films. And even
yeah,
if there are films that are critical of Israel, people are definitely closing the doors. It is a
yeah,
problem.
yeah,
But you know what? You will continue to tell your stories. We will continue
of
to tell
course.
our stories. We have
Yeah,
no choice. And
that's very important.
right. And if the audience isn't ready to listen to us now, we will find our audiences. We like you said, we have no choice almost. This is our survival.
Yeah,
We
this
need
is
to.
my way to tell these stories. that women that don't have their voices anymore, and I
Right.
want to put them in front and tell their stories.
Right. So tell me about the film that you're doing about the Israeli observers October 7th. Eyes Wide Open.
Yeah, it was the most difficult and hard movie I've done ever. And of course, I've done Holocaust movies, and people told me, "How did you do it? How did you you know, do this horrific subject?" And now I understand that that was easy compared to what I'm doing now, because there's no perspective. We're in this war now. We're bleeding and crying our hearts out. So it was very, very difficult, but it was very important to me because it was about the female soldiers, the observers.
Right.
Excuse me. They are the soldiers that are put on the border, on the fence, in this case in Gaza, and seeing what's going on. And they saw the practice of Hamas. They saw everything that was going on, and they were telling it to their commanders, but nobody listened to them. Nobody did anything, and then they paid the horrific price, because the Hamas raided on their camp, on their base, yeah. And
There were
from 24 observation females, there were 16 slaughtered that day. 7 of them were kidnapped. 1 was saved by the Israeli army, and one was murdered in captivity. So now there are five soldiers observation. Excuse me, how do you say it again?
the observation or
Observation, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, lookout. 5 soldiers are still in Gaza, still in kidnapped by the Hamas. 16 soldiers were slaughtered that day.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to say that I look forward to seeing that, because no one looks forward to seeing something like that, but to pay homage, to pay respect to what they did and how they put themselves on the line, and they were told to shut up and just look at and not to think and just watch the cameras by some of the commanders that paid them no mind. It's such a huge crime against them. So I do want to see the film, just really to honor them all. And it's very hard to make films where we are in the moment. You don't even really know what your ending is.
Right.
And that's what's sort of strange, is that we don't know how the films will end, and we're just praying for, there is no happy ending here, but there's maybe a slightly happier ending than
maybe a little closure for the families,
right,
that their daughters will come back
yes,
safe and sound. Well, not in their souls, maybe not in their bodies, but they can come back to their homes and their loved ones. And I'm praying for that so much.
So in the same way that making this film in real time is sort of the way that Anna was telling the story through her diary in real time, and it does have an audience and it does have a moment to be heard. And I think that's how we have to continue, is just don't lose faith in the storytelling. And and again, we will push to find our audiences to share them with.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
yeah, it's really important.
I'm thrilled. I loved watching Sabotage. I actually watched it twice.
Oh,
It was really good. So when you
you.
do start if you're doing any of the festivals in America, let me know. Okay, so I can push it out as well.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say that on the 7th of November, there's going to be a very big premiere to the Sabotage film in Canada, Ottawa. And there's going to be the diary is going to be held there, and everybody could see it from the museum. And it's going to be a really big gala. And
wow,
you're invited.
Are you coming?
Yeah,
Are
of
you going?
course. Yeah,
Wait,
sure.
November 7th in Ottawa. It's really cold. And
I know. I don't know how I'm going to handle that,
you'll
but
do
we'll
it.
see.
You're
I'll
tough.
do it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. This was really a pleasure meeting you and speaking to you. Thank you for your film
Thank
and
you
for all
so
your time.
much.